Hello, dear audience. Today I'm going to talk about Apollo 1. Apollo 1 was the first American program by NASA for the first manned moon landing. Apollo 1 has occurred in January 27th in 1967 during a pre-flight testing at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, USA. The 3 U.S. astronauts have passed away due to the fire: Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee. The initial cause for this disaster is that the prime contractor for this flight was the North American Aviation, which supplied an integral hatch with detonating bolts that could be quickly removed during an emergency. However, NASA has scrapped this idea because of some concerns that the bolt might break in space. Although an inward opening hatch means that it will be more difficult to open it on the ground. Moreover, before the launch of Apollo 1 in 1966, it was constantly noticed that the machine was clearly unsafe because of a faulty gluggle plumb in the environment control system, leaky thrusters, colon glitches, bad wiring, and inadequate software, to name but a few. Even the first test has failed, as the high oxygen indicators they have flashed repeatedly, and the communication between Grissom and an astronaut, Stolutha, who was sitting in the nearby cabin, was lost. A few seconds later, at 6:31, there was something strange. An image of a illuminated and almost white window of Apollo 1 was on the monitor of the firing room. Suddenly, the crew's biomedical readings have spiked, indicating an increased oxygen flow rate within the spacesuit, and other sensors have showed a shortage of nuclear and the sun radiation-powered surge. Then has came the first scream from inside. It was Chaffee shouting, "Fire!"
Can you read it? Can you get him out of there?
Downstairs on the launch pad's first floor, the technician Gary Probst has wondered why couldn't they just open the hatch. However, in order to do so, they needed to release multiple bolts within just seconds before the fire and the smoke could claim them. 5 minutes later, the would-be rescuers were repulsed by the constant heat wave, and as the group leader says, Don Babbitt, he says that it was heavy, thick gray smoke. However, it was very billowing, but very thick. So that night, 27 technicians have received the treatment for inhalation of smoke. And after the deaths of the 3 astronauts, the second cause of the catastrophe was identified instantly, and according to NASA, the cause of the fire in the engine was most likely a spark or a short circuit in the electrical wiring. The investigation conducted by the commission identified the several dangerous places in the ship's structure. Also, the fire spread very quickly and damaged the astronauts' spacesuits. The commission found that the astronauts have died 40 seconds rapidly after the start of the fire. And after several years, Apollo was so called as the first sacrifice. The Apollo 1, furthermore, helped achieve success in the subsequent Apollo missions and success to fly to the moon and have more investigations and discoveries. This tragedy really impacted all of the people involved. However, they decided not to give up. There were multiple improvements made. And the first one of the improvements is that the aluminum plumbing was replaced by stainless steel, and also the coolant pipes were armored with high-strength epoxy, and also the wire bundles were encased in the metal. Moreover, nylon was replaced with fire-retardant Teflon, and paper minimized, including reading material. No books or magazines, wrote Wally Schirra, who commanded Apollo 7 in 1968. Nor could we take anything made of paper to play with, such as cards or puzzles. This helped to gain sustainability and safety in our missions. The second one of them is, according to NBC News in 2017, NASA has learned from its mistakes, and the spacecraft are now much more safer than they were then. Flammable materials no longer fill in the inside of crew capsules. Hatches are now easier to open, so the astronauts can escape in seconds in case of an emergency. The lessons learned led to each of these issues being more than adequately addressed and led to a change in the way NASA treated the astronauts and their missions. The third improvement was implemented by the NASA flight director, Gene Kranz, in the aftermath of Apollo 1. From this day forward, flight control will be known by two words: tough and competent. Tough means we are forever accountable for what we do or what we fail to do. Competent means we will never take anything for granted. When you leave this meeting today, you will go to your office, and the first thing you will do there is to write tough and competent on your blackboards. Each day when you enter the room, these words will remind you of the price paid by Grissom, White, and Chaffee. These words are the price of admissions to the ranks of mission control. This shows the effect of the speech towards the workers and staff members involved in NASA's projects. As a conclusion, we can say by learning important details from catastrophes and disastrous events in the future, it has prevented the loss of souls or damage. Flights on the spacecrafts developed, and there are multiple other functions added, such as Apollo program's further spacecrafts. The memorial of Apollo 1 continues until today, with a silent tribute to those that sacrificed their own lives to a noble mission. There, one can see a plate with the Greek phrase, ad astra per aspera, which means that a rough road leads to the stars. Thank you for your attention.